It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Douglas Scott Lodmell, JD, LL.M. You might not know what that LL.M means. It's a new thing in law. It's a master's of law. It's either an ML or an ML or an LL.M. It's Latin, Magister Legum or Legum Magister. He was born in Geneva, Switzerland. From an early age, Douglas stood out as one of the brightest minds of his generation. His capacity to make the complex simple allowed him to excel during law school, receiving the Jacobs Burns Medal, an award given to a single student with the highest GPA. He completed his legal master's, LL.M. in taxation as the nation's leading tax attorney, New York University School of Law. He was further selected to clerk for one of the most famous federal district court judges on the bench, the Honorable Jack Weinstein in the Eastern District of New York. Douglas credits this experience as one of the most formative to his unique understanding of the legal system and what really happens behind closed chamber doors. After graduating with honors, Douglas joined his father, Gary Lodmell, a pioneer in the field of asset protection, founding Lodmell and Lodmell PC, right up the street from where I am right now in Phoenix, Arizona, and becoming one of the nation's leading asset protection law firms. Today, in fact, I tried to be his client, and he said, no, assets, not an ass. And so he kicked me out. And today, his firm protects over $4 billion in client assets. As managing partner of Lodmell & Lodmell, Douglas spends much of his time teaching, speaking, and leading thousands of business owners, corporate executives, investors, and other professionals who have often worked most of their lives to accumulate wealth of various types, including real estate and securities. Author of the book, The Lawsuit Lottery, The Hijacking of Justice in America, Douglas highlights the true workings of the legal system, including how the courts have been taken over by the financially driven legal machine and the lawyers who run it. He also discusses how legal extortion has become the new game and how reform is far from reality. Douglas is a regular speaker at events nationwide, educating audiences on understanding how to use asset protection to protect wealth and increase productivity. He is married to his wife, Awa Lodmell, and together they have 3 children and is an avid pilot in his spare time. As the nation's leading asset protection law firm, they protect over 3,500 clients nationwide and over $4 billion in assets. L&L is considered the premier asset protection firm in the country for clients in high-risk specialties such as medical professionals, real estate, small businesses, and employers. Legal, affordable, and simple, L&L helps more clients and protect more assets than anyone in the country. I could go on and on and on. I live in his backyard, so trust me, I know this guy personally, and he's a legend, and he probably doesn't know why I brought him on the show for this first question, but it's Dentistry Uncensored. I'm just going to lay it out there. The reason I was so excited to bring you on this show is because I graduated from high school in 80. And my God, Paul Volcker was recruited from the New York Fed, and he was going to break inflation, and interest rates went to 20.5%. Unemployment and inflation were double digit. And then it finally calmed down. I got out of school May of 87. Then October was Black Monday.
Right.
You know, that was my graduation present from dental school. And then just when I thought America was everything it was meant to be, Y2K just crashed, and that was really, really ugly. And then out of nowhere, Lehman's brother did it again. But the bottom line is, I'm a dentist. I do have an MBA from ASU, but I am a dentist. I'm not like you. And it seems like I've seen this movie 4 times, and I know how it ends. And to me, it looks like this is the 5th time I've seen this movie. And when I start telling the people, they're like, oh, you're a doom and gloomer. What's next? You know, the end of the world and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not a doom and gloomer, Doug, because I've lived through it 4 times, and it's not going to kill me. But am I crazy? I mean, are we in the middle of one of these movies that you and I have already lived through 4 times?
Yeah, I think we are. We're in the middle of the movie. We do know how it ends. And there's something in the human brain when everything is going well and you're up, all you can see is up. There is no down. When you're down, all you can see is down. You can't imagine you'll ever be up. It's a psychological deficiency in our human brains. We can only see what we're experiencing right now. But if you've seen this movie, if you're not 15 years old right now and you've been through this even just once, even if you just were around for the last version of this in 2008, you know what's going to happen here. And it's not the end of the world. This is not the end of our country. It's just going to cycle like it always does. But when it cycles, there is going to be a reckoning And the one thing we can be sure of, Howard, is that up or down, the lawyers are in the middle of it all and they always win. So lawsuits won't be tapering off. They're not going to go, oh, everybody needs a break from the legal system, let's quit suing. That part is going to stay the same.
Okay, another thing. My 4 boys are now all independent, own their own house, and now they got 6 dependents, and I'm starting to get accused of being the old crotchety grandpa, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. I'm like, I just roll my eyes and I'm like, Dad, you don't even listen. You're not even listening. You're just old and blah blah blah. But my gosh, am I just an old crotchety? Am I Oscar the Grouch when I tell you to take your Bitcoin story? And I'm Dental Town. One of the longest threads on Dental Town is on Bitcoin. And I've noticed one thing. If you're 40 and under, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. And if you're, 60 years old and diabetic and on erectile dysfunction medication, you have no interest in this thing. Is it an asset or is it just a high stakes gambling bubble?
You know what? That's a really good question. And it's, I see it this way. So we went off the gold standard in the 70s. We had to go off the gold standards because it was limiting our money supply. We only had so much money that could be backed by gold because we only had so much gold. So we had to go off the standard. And what happened is that we were then able to basically, people say print money into existence. We don't really print money into existence. We print a very small amount of money into existence, but we loan money into existence. That's how our financial system actually works, is we lend the money into existence. And the minute we didn't have to back it with gold, we were able to massively expand the money supply, which led to this massive increase in production over the past 40, 50 years. We're doing it again right now. And cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all of them are a component to that. It is a way in which we can expand the money supply. What's so scary about it to governments is that they don't get to control it like they do with lending it or printing it into existence. So Howard, Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain technology is very, very, very real. It will affect everything in our lives. And the entire world is going to run on a blockchain type technology, from voting to your banking, to your accounting, to your legal work, everything. Now, that all being said, cryptocurrency in its current state, meaning Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the altcoins that are out there, are any of those going to be the winner? And is it safe to be invested in those? I don't know. But I can tell you that if you like speculation, it's a great place to be speculating right now. I do think it's real. I do think it's going to be around. And I think in this last year, Bitcoin in particular and crypto as a whole has taken a huge leap forward in legitimacy, as we're getting ETFs. The big banks are giving access to their high net worth investors. You've got companies, you got Elon Musk and every large companies taking a portion of their company assets and investing in Bitcoin. So yes, there's a lot of hype around it. And yes, some people are going to get hurt. But if you're sophisticated, if you can afford to lose what you invest in it, do I have any problem with, do I try to talk my clients out of it? I don't.
Yeah, and my 2 older sisters are nuns. I couldn't even convert them to be a Lutheran, let alone talking some blockchain guy out of that. I mean, people have their minds made up. And one thing that you said that really was profound is on a lot of this market timing and everything. If you're not going to retire for 10 years, then the next downturn doesn't matter. There's going to be another one before, it seems to me they've been about every 10 to 12 years. And my favorite Austrian economist, Joseph Schumpeter, won a Nobel Prize in economics. He called it the business cycle in a nutshell. They said, why is there a business cycle? And he's like, well, because a bunch of crazy people are making all the decisions. And it's that lemming deal where one guy starts making money, so everybody follows into it. But I noticed, Socrates said there were only 2 emotions, greed and fear. But later Darwin kind of clarified it in biology, saying it's predator or prey. And so I know how my homies work. They they didn't go to school 8 years to learn about asset protections. They want to learn how to do a root canal. Because I'm a superhero when you come in holding your face and you're just in so much pain that you're stammering, and I can fix it. I can pull your tooth. I can do a root canal. Who cares about asset protection? This is not why they went to school. So back to predator or prey. You need to tell them of how somebody's going to eat them, and instead of you eating them, I mean, what is the bad guy in a dentist? I mean, why would a dentist need asset protection? Because I know I was thinking, I got dental malpractice. That'll pay for this person that, say, worst case scenario, IV sedation, they died in the chair. Are you saying I need to know something beyond my dental malpractice premium?
Maybe, maybe not. Because there's three things that determine whether someone is a good candidate for asset protection. One is their level of assets. I mean, if they have $500,000, that's one thing. If they have $5 million, that's another thing. If they're 25 years old, that's one thing. If they're 55 years old, they're going to work 5 more years. That's another thing. Their level of risk tolerance. That's the huge one. How risk averse are they? How much risk can they handle? And then finally, the amount of risk they take in their day-to-day life. So what you're referring to is, does a dentist have a lot of risk? Honestly, as a dentist, you have a fairly moderate level of risk, and it can be easily insured. So your dental malpractice risk, I would say, is fairly low. In my career, 25 years of doing asset protection, there's been a few cases where dentists had something where it actually exceeded the malpractice, or it wasn't covered because the malpractice effectively said, we're not going to cover you because it was gross negligence or some other get out of jail free card that the malpractice insurance carriers use. So it does happen. But what happens more often is they get sued by an employee, they get sued by an associate dentist that was going to buy the practice and they didn't have a good contract. They get sued for something completely unrelated. They have a car accident, whatever it is. So what asset protection is it's unlike insurance, which takes the liability and says, okay, if you have a fire, if you have a malpractice claim, if you get in a car accident, we're going to cover you for this amount of money as long as you don't have any exclusions applying. With asset protection, we're just taking the assets and we're saying, hey, let's put the assets in a very unreachable place so that any creditor, doesn't matter what creditor, can't reach them. And so it's very, very different. What I've found, Howard, is there is literally a tipping point. It just happens. It's some amount of money that when you get to, all of a sudden, it's a combination of the amount of money and your age. And when you get to this certain magic formula, you tip over and all of a sudden you start worrying about losing everything you got because you realize how long it took you to earn it. You realize how much time you have left to re-earn it if you had to. And you just, it's like the bias we have towards not losing versus missing out on an opportunity. We're all much more sensitive to losing what we have than we are even to missing an opportunity. So you can miss an opportunity in investing in Bitcoin. It's not going to really get you too down. But if somebody came and took $1 million from you right now, it would get you down. So what I find is that asset protection applies to you if you are at all thinking about, you know what, I'm worried. And if you're worried, just take the worry away. Do something about it. It's easy to do as long as we're not already in trouble. If you're not being sued already, it's easy to do. We can get it in place and we can make it basically impossible for someone to reach your assets. If you're not worried about it, if it doesn't cause you any loss of sleep and you feel like you're completely covered, you probably don't need it. So it really comes down to the individual.
That was very, very profound. Back to your book. You wrote a book, and it's posted on Dental Town, and it's called The Lawsuit Lottery, The Hijacking of Justice in America by Douglas S. Lodmell. And it says, with more than 1 million lawyers and 70,000 lawsuits filed every day, The U.S. civil justice system has been corrupted into a gigantic get-rich-quick lottery. The new national pastime is played 20 million times a year by a growing army of self-styled victims and their increasingly powerful and predatory attorneys. The lawsuit lottery is a social commentary that attempts to shed light on the hijacking of justice in America by the world's costliest tort system. In so doing, the book exposes the devastating harm being inflicted by a broken legal system on the nation's economy, the character and freedom of citizens, and the legitimacy of the United States and the international community. And as a dentist, I think it looks like there's 1 million lawyers and 1 million physicians. But the physicians didn't focus on Congress, and they didn't. It seems like the whole government was won by lawyers. Every time I meet a congressman or a senator, it seems like the lawyers took over the whole government. So it's kind of like there's never going to be any reform because the lawyers own the U.S. government. Is it fair to say as a dentist that pretty much the United States is ran and owned by the legal community?
I would say the legal community is highly influential. I don't know if it's run by it. I think the financial community really runs it. I think the banks run it more than the legal community, but the lawyers are really complicit. And the lawyers get their share out of all this. And they do it by making sure that that there's no impediments to their ability to be in the middle of conflict. There used to be the Constitution, the framers, they put 4 things in place that really were to dissuade litigation. They were very much against litigation. You couldn't have contingent fees. Lawyers were not allowed to take contingent fees. That was a no-no, because of course, if you pay somebody as a cut of the action, they want more action, right? There was no ambulance chasing. You could get disbarred for it. You absolutely were not allowed to do it. We had very strict rules of civil procedure that limited an attorney's ability to just make claims and go fishing, and then lawyers could not advertise was the 4th. Because they didn't want lawyers. We all know where the lawyer is, and if we need him, we can go find him. We don't need to have lawyers on every bus and every outdoor billboard there is in the country. Those 4 things have been completely dismantled. By 1982, they were all dismantled. Arizona is famous for having the case that dismantled the prohibition against legal advertising. Maine was the last state in 1964 to get rid of the no contingent fees. The rules of civil procedure were literally changed by the bar in 1982 to soften dramatically the prohibition against ambulance chasing. So procedure rules were changed in such a way that now you can basically sue for anything without proving your case. You don't have to state your case. You can just get in there and then try to figure out what you're suing for later on. All these things combined to make it extremely easy to sue, extremely difficult to get out of a lawsuit. And we have one feature of our legal system that is the most egregious, and it's really the simplest, and just this one thing would change everything. If I sue you, Howard, and you have to spend $250,000 on legal bills defending a bogus lawsuit, and you win and you get me kicked out of court, you're still out the 250 grand. I do not have to pay you back. You are just on your own on that. That's called the loser pays system. And in every other developed country in the world, the loser of a lawsuit has to make the winner whole from all those legal fees that they made them incur for what turned out to be a bogus lawsuit. In the US, we have no loser pays. Loser does not have to pay. There's no financial disincentive to sue. So lawyers sue all the time, and they don't have to worry about paying anybody's legal fees or running up. That's the gig. That is the legal extortion that I describe in the book. If I can sue you knowing that it's going to cost you $100,000 or $200,000 to defend, and then I tell you I just want 50 grand, unless you're a very principled person and no matter what, you're not going to pay me, your lawyer's going to tell you just pay him. It's cheaper than us fighting him. And frankly, that makes up the bulk of the lawsuits in this country, really just straight up extortion. And so, what asset protection does is it levels the playing field. It allows for my clients to basically say, hey, if I can choose, but I have my assets protected in such a way where you can't just extort them from me. And again, it's a function of at some point, when you start worrying about losing it and you see your friends around you getting sued and you get a letter from an employee that is asking for records and all the things that, a lawyer would ask for a wrongful termination type lawsuit or a harassment suit or whatever it is, it makes you think. And that's usually when they start calling me.
Yeah, and some of these lawsuits with employees, I mean, I can get into it, but like a lot of the embezzlement cases, I mean, it seems like the employees are pretty smart. Like they start patting the case, like, oh, I'm embezzling, but what if I get caught? He might get really, really mad, so I'll have an affair with him, so he can't tell his wife, or I'll start doing drugs with him. I know one dentist who pissed off his assistant so much that she knew he was going to a bachelor party in Hawaii, and she knew he was going to do the old college partying stuff.
Yeah.
And so she called Sky Harbor and told him that he was coming back with drugs in his deal, and they did a search deal, and sure enough, everything he told her he was going to do at the bachelor party in Hawaii came true. Wow. And it was in his bloodstream. I mean, it's just, oh my God, that's crazy. But my guy, so we'll try to stay on schedule with the asset protection. So what do you, if I go to McDonald's, I get a Big Mac, fry, and a Coke. When a dentist, specifically a dentist, everybody listening right now is a dentist. When a dentist calls you, what is his Big Mac, fry, and a Coke? Why are dentists calling you? And by the way, how do they contact you? What's the best way for them to, what's your best contact?
Well, most of them just call my phone number, 602-230-2014. They just call the office and say, hey, I want to talk to Doug. Or they go online, Lodmell.com, and they check it out, or they email me, my name, Doug@Lodmell.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. As you know, Howard, I've been working with dentists for my entire career. My first year out of law school, I probably did 30 conferences, and 25 of them were for dentists. That's just the world I dropped into right out of law school.
And you got gorgeous teeth.
Yeah, well, that's because my dentist, I didn't used to have gorgeous teeth, but all my dentist clients kept saying, I can fix those. And I'm finally like, okay, fix them. So yeah, I understand the dentist, and they're pretty conservative. They are better businessmen than any physician any day of the week. I would take a dentist because they see themselves as business people. Now, they may not get the training in school, but the smart ones and the ones I was talking to were at practice management seminars, and they were getting the training after school. The best dentists are really good business people. They learn how to be good managers, or they learn to hire a good manager because they have teams. They have to make it work. And so the Big Mac and fry and Coke for a dentist is really just a simple structure of a holding company, some underlying LLCs if they have individual assets like rental properties and any kind of, if they have an airplane or something, and then an asset protection trust. Those are the three core legal tools that I use every day with dentists. They're straightforward. They don't create any extra tax liability. They're simple from an accounting standpoint, from a compliance standpoint. But what they do is they create a shield around the assets such that anything goes down, any kind of liability, any kind of threat to the assets, they call me and they go, Doug, this is what's happening. And here's the thing, Howard. Most dentists are not going to need to use my plan in its fullest form. In other words, they put it in place. They put it in place 15 or 20 years ago at this point. But they'll call me at some point in the middle of that and they'll say, hey, Doug, I just got this problem. It's either an employee issue, it's a personal lawsuit issue, or it's even a malpractice issue. And they say, I just want to know that I'm covered because my wife is freaking out. She thinks we're going to lose our house. And I just need to know, I need you to tell her what we have and what we did and why it's going to work. And my ability to do that at the beginning of something that they're probably going to be okay with anyway, because it's covered by insurance or it's not going to really come to anything, doesn't matter. It will freak them out. It will freak their family out. And so what the asset protection really does is it allows them to go through the issue with massively less fearful. They're just able to cruise through an issue knowing that they've got their assets protected, when if they don't, they're going to freak out the whole time and probably make some bad decisions in there as well. That happens surprisingly a lot because I don't know. I mean, you've been around. There's times when something just happens and it creates a risk, and now all of a sudden you're worrying about it night and day. And when that risk is financial, it can be a massive drain on you. It can distract you from your business, from your family, from your life. So just knowing you've got yourself covered, it's like somebody who's afraid to fly and you give them a parachute. I mean, okay, the plane's not going down, but if it does, here's a parachute, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Did you ever go down? I mean, we live in Phoenix. Eloy's like the
the jumping place. I did go jump there.
Yeah. Did you go jump?
I did.
I did. My comptroller, she was so funny. Stacy, she says it was one of her big birthdays, and she asked me to go with her, and I said, "Why me?" And she goes, "You're the only one crazy enough to do this. No one else will jump out of a perfectly good airplane."
Right.
And so I did it with 3 of my 4 boys, and you got to ask yourself, why the hell would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? And the one thing that the reason I had you come on the show is because it doesn't matter how smart you are. People do dumb things. Like Prince didn't have a will. Yeah. How do you have a jet and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and not have a will? But I mean, how many famous people do you know? I mean, dude, they didn't even have a will. I mean, so what are the basics? I mean, you need a will. You need dental malpractice. Some of them are. I need a big HR manual. If I buy an HR manual and have all my staff sign off on it, but will you go through what my homie? And the reason I love him is because he's a chef. He just wants to go to chef school and know how to make a new dish. I mean, that's what he does. And that's why I want to go to him, because that's his true love. Yeah. But he's got to wear all these other hats that just the chef still has to pay the bills and have staff and hours and marketing. So what is you're his lawyer now. Make his list. What does this guy have to have so he doesn't end up like Prince?
Right. Okay. So you said it. You need some kind of estate plan, some basic estate plan. It could be a will or it could be a revocable living trust. Nowadays, it's almost always a revocable living trust. I'm not going to go into it, but it's better than a will. It's simpler. It avoids probate. It has some advantages. So some kind of estate plan. So if you die, you're not leaving a mess for your family. That's just the basics. If you have young kids, you need to be able to appoint guardians in there. That's part of your estate plan. So an estate plan, even if you don't have much of an estate, even if you're beginning, it still makes sense, especially if you have a family. Now you started a practice. Okay, yeah, you need malpractice insurance. There's no way around it. You've got to have it. It's not too expensive for dentists. Fortunately, you guys aren't OBGYNs and you're not having this kind of cases that they're having where they had a crisis where it was $250,000 a year to get a policy. So it's reasonable, thankfully for you. So you should have it. Your personal liability insurance, all of your houses, your cars, your boats, your airplanes, all of that, I want you to get good insurance. And then I want an umbrella policy on top of that. So I want to comment on what an umbrella policy is. An umbrella policy is not an umbrella. It does not expand coverage to things that are not already covered. It's really just an excess coverage policy. That's all it is. It just increases the protection on your already insured things. It only increases the protection on your already insured things. So if you have a $300,000 auto policy and then a $2 million umbrella, if you get in a car accident, it's going to be over $300,000. That's when the umbrella kicks in. But if you have an employee lawsuit that wasn't insured to begin with, the umbrella is not going to kick in and cover it. That's a super important point, and most people don't understand that. They think the umbrella somehow magically covers every possible thing. It doesn't, but they're also very inexpensive. Maybe I think I paid $2,000 for $5 million of umbrella coverage. So the reason they're inexpensive is that they're not really insuring anything except the already insured stuff. You mentioned an employee handbook. Beyond critical to have an employee handbook and great HR support. I cannot tell you HR support is the number one area where dentists get in trouble. They just do, if they're going to do something stupid, it's going to be in the HR context. That's going to be their biggest problem. So have a great handbook and a support team. That could be a lawyer, it could be a company like Cedar, but some support team that you can call and go, hey, this is what's going on. I need help. I need to make sure that I get the right answer here. Because that's where people mess up. Then personally,
well, wait, you got to give some examples. There might be some proper ladies listening to you right now that can't even imagine what you're talking about. Can you give examples when you said when you screw up, it's probably going to be with staff involved? I mean, how does this happen?
Okay, so I'm not even talking about like an affair with an employee. That's
I wasn't talking about that. Where did your mind go?
I'm talking to you, Howard. I was assuming that's what you were talking about.
It was when the biggest disasters I've seen.
Yeah.
When the staff just went off. I mean, she was filling prescriptions for him. She was embezzling from him. She was sleeping from him. I mean, it was just and those are a lot of times the suicide cases. Since I've been a dentist here, about every year, about one or two or more dentists will do it in the whole 32 years I was here, and a lot of them are weird, sexual, personal, drug. I mean, financial. They're pretty complicated. But anyway, enough of that. Maybe that should have been for suicide, not malpractice or legal.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. That's not the problem that I'm referring to. I'm referring to you have an employee that you really like. She's pregnant, and she's got some wicked morning sickness. And, you know, you're really good to her. You say, hey, if you can't make it in, whatever it takes, we're here. You make it in when you can make it in. You give her the greatest, you know, because she's a great employee, and that's what a good employer would do, right? Well, now you got another employee and she's not making it in either. But you know it's because she's out partying. And you say, hey, if you can't make it in because you're partying, you can't work here anymore. And she goes, well, Jenny was pregnant and she got all this treatment, and why don't I get this treatment? And believe it or not, that second employee is correct. You can't treat one way and one another way, because pregnancy and drug addiction are both disabilities. They're treated exactly the same. But what doctor out there knows that and is going to get that one right? None of them. They're never, and that's just one of 1,000 different ways that you can screw up around your HR. Bottom line is you shouldn't be doing anything HR. You should, and most of the dentists listening to this aren't big enough to have an actual HR director. I mean, unless you have 50 plus employees, you can't afford to have an HR director at $80,000 a year sitting there doing your HR work. So what do you do when you're the dentist in between, you know, under 50 employee dentist, and yet, you know, you're having your office manager make these calls? No, she doesn't have the information, the education, the resources to do it. That's why I'm saying that's the area where I see most of my doctors get in trouble, is that they do something they think is right, or that maybe somebody told them, oh, you know, you can do it this way, and it flies by, they don't get in trouble, and all of a sudden they do it one day and it's a big deal because it was the wrong person, or it was just, you know, the wrong circumstances. And so they end up doing something that was just flat out wrong. And now they're in a lawsuit, and could be wage and hour, misclassifying employees. I can't tell you how many dentists have, I think many of them have this corrected by now, but if you're listening to me and you have any employees whatsoever that you pay as independent contractors, you almost certainly are doing it wrong. Almost guaranteed that you're doing it wrong. And if they only work for you, then I guarantee you're doing it wrong. So from classifying your employees to just disciplining and even making offer letters or termination letters, the state laws around whether you can withhold their last paycheck before they give you back your company property, like keys and a laptop or something, all different in every state. And in some states, you absolutely cannot. You absolutely cannot hold their last paycheck. And if you do, you violated a statute. So that's what I mean, Howard, when I'm talking about, you know, if there's a place that they're going to screw up, it's going to be in the human resources, because nobody knows what that is. Unless you're an expert in that area, nobody gets that one right.
I wanted to ask a specific question on the insurance, though, on that umbrella. a guy on, like say, one of the biggest threads on dental accounts deal in Bitcoin. But anyway, a guy's Coinbase account was hacked, and everybody starts asking, well, do you need cybersecurity insurance? And that's not dental malpractice. Does that fall under personal liability insurance? Do you even recommend? Some people are saying that a dentist today, if he's going to practice 10 more years, will get hacked into his dental office someday. Do you buy that? And do you recommend insurance on that? Is that another one on your list or not really?
Yeah, it is a good one because you've got sensitive information, you got HIPAA compliant information in your database, and if you get hacked, it can be problematic. So cyber insurance is a thing now. I think everybody should look into it and at least have an analysis done and determine whether they have the kind of information and that the coverage would actually apply. Obviously, it's not going to cover your Coinbase hack. That's totally separate. It covers a data breach type of thing. So the answer is yeah, you should look at it. It's probably not the number one thing that you need to run out and do, but it's also probably something you shouldn't be ignoring. And yes, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, if you're young, you need to figure all this out. The data and the cybersecurity and the cyberness of everything that we're doing, which, by the way, Howard, the way this gets solved ultimately is that patient records go on the blockchain. That's where this is heading. And then it becomes virtually unhackable. So, that's where blockchain is going to change the world. Every record in the world is going to be on a blockchain.
Do you recommend an HR manual?
Do I recommend an HR manual?
Yeah, is there one that you recommend or a law firm that you recommend for HR?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Cedar. I am a partner in Cedar. I started Cedar with Paul Edwards. Cedar
he's been on the show.
He's been on the show. So he's my partner. He's also my brother. His father and my mother have been married for 35 years. So he's my stepbrother. And so I started it because the number one issue that I had with my clients, which in the beginning were virtually all dentists, was the HR issue. And so we started Cedar to specifically address that. So yeah, of course, I would recommend Cedar because clearly we're the best.
Wow, I had no idea. Now I'm like, so that's your half brother?
That's my stepbrother.
Oh my! And he's out in Tucson, and you're up in Scottsdale.
That's right.
My God, I've had him do. Oh my God, he was on show 894. He's done CE courses for him. I mean, come on, you're not gonna let your brother put on a CE course and not you put one on.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, my God,
I'll do it.
Your mom won't let you come home for Christmas. She'll say no. We're only feeding the other child. But yeah, your brother. I had no idea. My gosh, yeah, Paul Edwards from How to Create a Self-Managing Team. But yeah, HR. And here's the problem with dentists is that, when I was at Creighton University, by the way, when I was at Creighton University, I was in Swanson Hall. Paul Gosar, the congressman from Flagstaff.
Okay.
He was in that same hall. I mean, there's like a whole Creighton mafia out here. And my gosh, the library would close at midnight and we walk back to the dorm and there's music and beer and it was all the business majors and everybody else. But if you were a pre-med, pre-dent, you were serious as a heart attack. And so these dentists, they lived in a library making straight A's in chemistry, biology, and math and physics. And then they're thrown out into a world where all these patients are very complicated and demanding. The staff is, so when I line up dentists, and a lot of dentists say, well, most dentists believe this. And I say, well, I'd like to see the polling on that. And they never have it. But on Dental Town, when you start a thread, you can start a poll. So I've got 2 decades of polls. And bottom line is this. If you lined up all the problems in the world, the dentist is always going to pay. It's either going to be the patient or the staff because it's people. He's an introvert. He wants to sit down and figure out the area of a square. He doesn't want to deal with Susie and Amy and Lori, and it's the most stressful thing. So we naturally select them. You can't get into this party unless you're a math, physics, chem guy. And then when you get out, you wish you were a drunk bartender. You wish you just went to bartending school for 8 years and learned how to talk to drunks at the bar, because people are pretty silly. They're pretty silly and they're pretty crazy and they're pretty nuts. And in fact, the Walgreens, all my friends that were pharmacists at the Walgreens when I started, they work really hard because they want to get out of the retail and go to the autofill centers
Right.
where they sit in, and they're just like, the
They
minute
wanna deal
they
with
never,
people.
the minute they never have to see a human again, they're like, so yeah, the people side, and I'm going to hold you to Paul Edwards. I mean, he made an online CE course. You're going to have to do one
All
on
right.
what you do,
I'll do it.
or I'm going to call your brother, and then he'll go
Hey,
down there. He'll go
he,
down there.
he didn't do it. You got to get him to do it.
Yeah, I'd really love that, because my job as a leader in dentistry is I don't have to tell them to go learn how to do Invisalign and implants. They're naturally already there.
Mhm.
That's why they did what they did. But man, to try to get them to know their overhead or to have a damn will. I mean, how did Prince? He must not have had one damn
Friend.
friend. I mean, how
Yeah.
could you be riding in his jet and not saying, dude, what does this cost? Do you have a will? Okay, so that was the HR manual. Yeah, that's who we use, and I use them all the time because for the HR, because well, he's down in Tucson. He's smarter than shit. He knows this stuff like the back of his hand. But I was just going out on a limb, trying to be objective, saying, who do you recommend? And you recommended your brother. Okay,
Right.
so we covered that. So we were back on that list where you need estate plan, will, revocable living trust, guarding for the kids, avoid probate. Then you need dental malpractice. You need a personal liability insurance umbrella practice. You need cited day breach. You need an HR manual. And what I'm trying to do is, a quarter of our listeners are still up the street at AT Still Dental School in Mesa and Midwestern. A quarter of them are still in dental school.
Right.
And I'm trying to help young dentists understand the legal and business challenges of running a practice. So continue on that rant. How do
Okay.
you get this young kid who's got this dream? I'm going to come out and I'm going to buy a practice. Okay, well, I seen my dog run off the porch and try to catch a Ford 150 driving by. And let's just say that dog did catch the bumper.
Yeah.
And he did buy a practice. Now he's 25. He thinks he's in hog heaven. He's got his teeth sunk in the bumper of this dental practice going down the road 80 miles an hour. Help him understand the legal and business challenges of that.
Yeah. So for that, you want to surround yourself with just smart people that are familiar with your industry, that you don't have to educate on everything, that are going to come and add to you, not take away. So the smartest people I know are just surround themselves great accountants. Oh my God, just find a great accountant that can help you figure out and be proactive, because taxes are real, and the difference between having a good accountant and a reactive, fill in the blanks accountant that's just going to, quickly do it at the end of the year and send you a bill for $2,000. I'd rather pay 20 grand and have real advice than pay 2 grand and just have somebody, going through the motions for me. Understanding the legal around the world today. Maybe one day AI is going to be able to do all this for us, but until that happens, you need a great attorney. You need somebody that understands, and that's from the day you get out, figuring out what business structure to have. I spend a lot of time just explaining the difference between an LLC and an S Corp to people, and why accountants like S Corps and asset protection attorneys like LLCs, and how we can split that baby and how we can make it work for both parties and maximize your tax benefits, but still use the right tools to protect the assets. And then, once you have any assets, Howard, $500,000, $1 million, somewhere in there of protectable type of stuff that's not already protected, then you should start thinking about asset protection. And it doesn't mean you need every, bell and whistle from day one. But my philosophy, if I'm going to buy a house or an airplane, I'm going to go look at the best possible thing, usually well out of my price range, because I want to know where I'm going. I want to start at the top and then work my way down. Most people do it exactly the opposite. They start at the bottom and they go, well, that's unacceptable. Let me just work my way up till I find the minimally acceptable thing. And then that's what they buy. To me, that's just backwards. Start at the top, go look at the $10 million house, even if you can't afford it, and then work your way down. And what I found is that you will start to understand what the difference between a $2 million and a $10 million house is and what you're really paying for. And you'll start to be able to decide for yourself where that arbitrage is and pick and choose the pieces that matter. It's true for a house. It's true for an airplane. It's true for a business plan. It's true for a legal plan. So what I tell clients, what I tell anyone who's on the path to, they are going to be successful, call me now, understand where you're going, understand what a foreign asset protection trust is and a bridge trust and an asset management limited partnership and an LLC and a management company that's an S Corp and a practice and all of that, even if you're not ready for it, because if you know where you're going, you're going to get there. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do. You'll just end up, cruising along and following the herd. And like you said, the lemmings, and if half of them go off the cliff, well, then you're going off the cliff with them. So I surround myself with people. Look, I'm a tax attorney and I don't even pretend to do my own taxes. I rely on a really great accountant. And it took me a while to find the right one. And when I found the right one, that's it. Same is true with everything else. I use Cedar for my own HR stuff. I mean, I literally call them. I open a ticket just like everybody else. I get Jenny or one of the advisors on the phone, and they tell me what to do. I mean, I know, but I don't because I don't do it every day.
I know Jenny's number off the top of my head.
I bet you do.
8675309.
Yeah.
Did I get it right? 8675. Jenny. I'm going to throw something out there kind of weird, but there was a presidential election that had a candidate from near here. His name was Mitt Romney in Utah. And a lot of people got really freaked out because he was supposed to be running for president of the United States, but he had a lot of his money offshore. Mm-hmm. And when I would tell that to patients, the income gap, the poor people thought it was just an outrage. But I was surprised at how many millionaire clients I had that live in an equestrian center in Ahwatukee, and some of them have built some big companies out here. They had money offshore, mm-hmm. And then some dentists think anyway. It just there's movies on it. What was that Tom Cruise movie where there's the offshore?
The Firm.
Oh my God, that was Tom Cruise's best movie ever.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. That was intense. But so offshore, is it a Tom Cruise movie or is it any form of reality?
Okay, so offshore and onshore, for the most part, aren't any different. You are taxed the same if you have an account offshore as you have onshore. You have enhanced reporting requirements because the government wants to make sure that you realize that you're taxed the same. It is more expensive offshore because the banks are more old school. They charge there's no e-trades and, discount brokerages offshore. It's kind of full freight banking. They have a different banking system. It's a trust banking system. They don't, when you open an account here at Bank of America, you are lending your money to the bank. And then you're asking for that loan to be repaid on demand. That's why they call it a demand deposit. It's a loan though. So when the balance sheet of the bank comes out, all those deposits are on their balance sheet. They're not on yours. So when a bank goes under, you're a creditor. And that's why their FDIC exists because, otherwise no one would have confidence in banks. In Switzerland, it's called trust banking, where they actually segregate your account and the owners of those banks, which are still private families, are personally responsible down to their personal assets for every account in that bank. So the security, the capitalization of the bank has a perception of being much higher. The privacy is non-existent. Do not expect the firm where he had a numbered account and he remembered all the numbers in his head and they gave him all the money. That doesn't exist. It is non-existent. It did exist at one point in the distant past, but it does not exist today. Everything is full disclosure. They will always know who you are. So I have lots of clients that have foreign accounts and foreign trusts, and there's different reasons that they have them. Some of them want to diversify the banking system. Some of them want to diversify their currency. Some of them are doing it for asset protection reasons so that their money is physically out of reach of a judge. But as a general rule, most U.S. people do not need a foreign account. It would be more expensive than it's worth to have, more compliance and headache than your CPA is going to want to deal with. Unless you have a very specific reason, I don't advocate that everybody go try to open up an offshore account.
This is maybe I shouldn't say this, maybe it's private, but you and I have a common dentist friend, Mike Abernathy.
Oh yeah.
So you guys last time I brought you up with or thought about you and him, you were both going to Bolivia for a
That's right.
A dental deal. So that's a really famous dentist. So tell me about your Mike Abernathy connection, and what were you guys doing in Bolivia? Were you down there moving money offshore to Bolivia?
Yeah, suitcases of $100 bills. It was very intense. You know, the Bolivian government was falling right at the time. That part is true. The Bolivian government was literally being overthrown at the moment that we arrived there. No, I met Mike a long time ago. I mean, God, the very beginning of my career. I mean, 25 years ago. And we just hit it off. I just love Mike. I think he's just a person that I love. And we hit it off, and I asked him to be on the board of World Children's Relief, which is a charity that my brother and I started with the mission of bringing enhanced education and education teacher training to countries around the world. So Bolivia was one of our first exploratory trips together. He went on that trip with us, and it was amazing. He also went to Haiti with us more than once, and I've been all over the world with Mike. You know, Mike's like a special forces guy too, so you feel very safe when you're in an unsafe country when you're hanging out with Mike Abernathy. So you know, that was another bonus benefit of bringing Mike along.
That is so darn cool. Do you when you're dealing with dentists, what do you think they don't pay enough attention to? I mean, again, I know my dentist. I mean, you can't rationalize half of them. Like you'll sit down and look at their revenue, and it's like 99% your regular cleanings, exams, X-rays, filling, and not even 1% is TMJ. And he's off to his 18th TMJ course for a week. I mean, he's a doctor. He loves this stuff. He's obsessed by it, and that's why I love him. You know what I mean? But then you try to sit there and say, well, what is your overhead, or do you have a will, or any of the nitty gritty business stuff, and he's just not into it. And what do you think that my homies listening to you right now are not thinking about while they're at their TMJ dental implant Invisalign course that you wish you could just grab them by the back of the head and like your dog, how you make him smell his mess he made? When you want to grab a dentist and go stick his nose in the poop he made on the floor, what do you wish he'd pay more attention to?
Well, that's a really, really good question. I think this applies to most people, not just dentists, but I think that we're always after the shiny new thing. It's just like, oh, shiny, and they're off, especially technicians, right? Especially like you said, they're off to the 18th TMJ course because they want to chase the new thing. And what they don't pay attention to is what has already worked. I had one guy tell me, I just did my first thing. It was a massive success. We made $250,000. We did this whole thing, and I go, great. So what's the plan? And he's like, oh, well, now I'm going to do this different thing. And I'm like, well, wait, why are you doing a different thing? Why not keep doing that same thing that's been working for you? So I think what we do as people is we're always looking for something new and disregarding the thing that's already working. I mean, and this is, I've been talking to people lately from another podcast that are kind of in that mode of they're looking for something to do. And I talked to somebody who's already figured out, they're an author on Amazon. They've already figured out the game. They already make a couple $100,000 a year for it. And they want to just quit that, cut off all their income and learn something new. And I said, are you crazy? You've already figured out half the game. You already know the formula. Figure out, identify your problem. Well, your problem is you don't want to write as much. Okay, great. Let's identify that problem and then solve for that. And you just see the light bulb go off in his head, and he's like, oh my God, you're right. And boom, boom. Same thing with dentists. Same thing. They're doing something that worked, and then they magically forget about it, and then they want to go to the next thing. It might be marketing. It might be new patients. It might be retention. something that worked. It might be the phone system and the scripts that you use, and they're working. And then they hire a new employee and they don't train them well, and they don't train to a standard, and they have worker training worker. And next thing you know, they're off. It's gone. They forgot it worked. And now they're wondering, how can they improve their practice? But they don't go back to the thing that already worked. They try to find something new, because somehow in our brains as humans, we think newer is better. It's not normally true. Newer is not normally better. I remember somebody really smart. I was at his conference. We were sitting in Mesa, I think. And he said, the number one reason why a dentist cannot retire on time with the amount of money that they want is, Howard, what's the answer? Because you were the guy who said it. Because they get divorced.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard you lecture so many times, because we used to lecture at the Madhouse.
Yeah.
I saw you lecture there.
Yeah.
I published you in the Ferran Report back when it was black and white and there was no internet. And we have a common mutual love affair with Greg Stanley.
Yeah.
Love Greg Stanley.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what you're talking about. But yeah, I graduated with $87,000 student loans. My divorce was $3.8 million. So my dental school, my divorce was 71 times more expensive than that.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't make that mistake twice. Don't make it once if you can help it, but don't make it twice for sure.
But I always tell her, I said, I don't have one damn regret, because we got 4 boys. Our moms still live a block apart and go to mass every single day at the same church, and so I just moved her to the category one of my 5 sisters. I mean, still the best decision I ever made. But man, it is an expensive. When that goes south, that is just expensive. And these kids that come out of dental school, they're worried about their overhead. I tell them, family first, business second. If you can keep your family together, that's going to be everything. And if that blows up, it's going to be really expensive and a big.
Well, that's a different podcast, Howard, which we should do, because I mean, just managing the brain, your thoughts, your understanding of what it takes to keep a business going and a family intact.
And I was just thinking about it. All of us. I don't know if have you ever been divorced?
Yeah, I was divorced. My first marriage, thankfully, young, broke, no kids, so fairly painless.
So you have, Greg Stanley has, Woody Oakes has, Abernathy has, Maddow has, and Howard Friend has. So this entire Rat Pack from Vegas, we were the new Rat Pack. All of us made that mistake. So you young kids listening to this, I'm telling you what.
Yeah.
Actually, they're saving a lot of their divorces, because they get married a decade later.
Yeah.
So I got these 2 friends. They're 2 girls, and we're all the same age. And one's always like, oh, I've never been married. And she just plays this I've never been married thing. And the other one's really embarrassed because she's been divorced 3 times, okay? Well, the truth is they both had a boyfriend that they lived with for almost a decade 3 times.
Right.
One of them formerly married and divorced, so she's burned when she's been divorced 3 times. The other one never tied the knot, so she's still at the gym playing, I'm still a virgin. At 59, I've never been married. And it's like, dude, it's the behavior, not what the hell the lawyers call it. But if you shack up with someone 10 years, that's the same as a marriage. By the way, let's talk about shacking up. There's a lot of guys in a lot of states. Gosh, I don't want to say it too close on, but one of our common friends who lived in Scottsdale, who just passed away last year, he finally met the love of his life and went and got married. And his girlfriend filed the what is that called?
Common law marriage.
Common law marriage, and he was from Georgia, and by God, he was richer than dirt, and she got half of everything, and he was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Right. That was just the side hustle for some years, and so is that a big thing? Are there a lot of dental students in AT still in Midwestern that their girlfriend might get them for common law? Is that a common thing anymore, or not really?
It's not. I almost never hear about it. It's very rare. It usually takes a fair amount of time, depending on the state. I mean, 10 years or something where you're living together. You have to, I mean, it's not easy to prove. I hardly ever see it. I mean, common law marriage, but it's not, if you're living with somebody and you're living with them a long time, especially, here's the big thing. If you're holding yourself out as married, and a lot of people do that, they're not technically married, but the wife is like, well, I don't care if we're not technically married, but I don't want to go out and be living with you and not say that I'm married. So just say we're married. And so that holding yourself out as married is, in many states, one of the requirements for proving a common law marriage. And so, marking married in your Facebook account or whatever. So if you are living with somebody and you're not married, do not pretend that you are married. Just say we're not married. We're just living together. But if you hold yourself out as married, and then check your state law. I mean, if you're in a state that has a common law marriage, read the statute, see what it says, and then don't do that stuff. Or better yet, sign an agreement that specifically acknowledges both parties that you're not married and you're not intending to create a common law marriage. But no, Howard, it's not something I see. I don't see it. But most of my clients are married, so maybe that's why I don't see it.
Another thing I want to ask you is, there's a lot of kids up the street at AT still that just throw it in my face every time within it. They say, yeah, but Howard, you graduated in the glory years, the golden years. I mean, you were out in the 80s. Come on. It's 2021. Do you think dentistry has lost its golden years? You're a lawyer. Same question for law. There's one of the reasons I called you is because there's also another thread on dental school where a lot of dentists saying, well, maybe I should go back and be a lawyer, because the grass is greener on the other side. If you just burn down your dental office and go to law school, that's where all the easy millions of dollars are made. That's how they think. But to both questions, do you think dentistry and medicine we'll do that? And then one last question before I forgot. Who was the lawyer who did that claim in 1973? Was that the guy on the that took that lawyer's advertising to the Supreme Court?
It was Arizona Republic versus something 1977 U.S. Supreme Court case.
It was the Arizona Republic.
Yeah, Arizona Republic. So a lawyer advertised his prices and his services in the Arizona Republic way back then, and of course it was prohibited. And the bar. So I think it was the Arizona bar versus, or there, but it was an Arizona Republic. 1977 was the case. I'll find it for you if you want it.
Yeah, will you send that to me, because that one is what included dentistry, and you're saying that was 1977. So when I got to Arizona, you were only able to have a here it is there it is, the Supreme Court, this Bates versus State Bar of Arizona, 1977. Yes. Related cases and attorney advertising for the Supreme Court held in blah blah. That attorney advertising was a form of commercial speech. So that's what opened it up for dentistry. And then when I got here, I was young, so I took out a full page ad in the Yellow Pages, and that got me a free lunch from the executive director of the Arizona State Dental Association, telling me what a horrible idea that was, and if I had prostate cancer, would I pick an oncologist out of the Yellow Pages? And
it worked, didn't it?
And now that we're so old, that whole damn thing's bankrupt. I mean, who the hell uses the Yellow Pages anymore? But that's what opened it up for us. But anyway, do you think dentistry and medicine have seen their past?
I think it's transforming for sure. I can tell you, lawyers are by and large just like the average dentist. They're not doing super great. The very top of any of these industries, they're doing super great. But the average guy, I mean, there's lots and lots of lawyers out there that are unemployed, not doing law, just working somewhere else, doing something. Success is not a function of your degrees. I think we all know that. It's a function of who you show up to be in your business. And frankly, if you're running a business, it's how well you learn to run the business. I don't think the glory days are over. I think that they are very different, though. And if you want to have a practice that looks like the practice that you started or that you became, known for, that was 30 years ago, I think you're going to be in for a really rude awakening, because that practice doesn't exist anymore. But if you're willing to change the rules of the game and figure out what's working today and figure out what people really want, then I think you can be incredibly successful. The one thing I have to say about dentistry is that, I mean, until we get robots and AI that can literally get into your mouth, you still need to go see a dentist. I mean, lawyers and CPAs, we will be outsourced in a different way, because we are literally doing stuff that can be replaced by AI. And by 2030, what's in our phone right here, the computing power in this phone by 2030 will be the power of the human brain. By 2050, it will be the power of all humans combined. That's according to Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis. That's how fast the computer power is still growing. I remember we used to all talk about, Moore's law and the doubling of computing power. It's still going on. It's still happening. We just don't notice it anymore because we don't sit around looking at the CPU processing speed of our computers. But our phones, if we look at how much power they have, so we have to figure out what people really want. And what I think people want, and the way that I plan to stay relevant as an attorney, is they want human, they want connection. That's what we built Cedar around, is real humans giving real legal advice. That's what I built my law firm around, is real humans giving real advice. Because when you're stressed out, something's happening, and you need to call your lawyer and be consoled or advised, you don't want AI. You don't want a robot. You don't want a FAQ. Here's the page to answer your question. You want somebody who can interpret your situation. And the same is true if you got something going on with your teeth. You're in pain. You want to go to a dentist and say, I understand what's going on there, and here's what it is, and I can help. So it's different, Howard, but it is. I think the glory days there's going to be a new wave of glory days. For the people who can catch it and understand it and can adapt. And it's going to be maybe even better, because look, technology is awesome. I mean, it's awesome. And if we can leverage it and use it and still keep the human component of it, why wouldn't we want to? I mean, I fly an airplane that technologically, it's an old plane, but the panel has technology that they couldn't even dream of when the plane was built. That makes it safer and better in every way.
So I got to ask you a couple. We went over an hour, but I still have some questions left. Can I keep you for some overtime?
Yeah, sure.
This guy says, I'm trying to incorporate it, and I use LegalZoom, and
Okay.
I'm not sure what to do right now. I'm trying to incorporate and blah, 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 blah. Do you recommend incorporating on LegalZoom? I mean, is that a thing that you endorse, or not really?
So here's the thing. It's not the corporation or the incorporation that matters. If you incorporate and you get a legal document from LegalZoom, that's fine. Did you get the right thing, though? That's the question. And so the issue is, and I get people asking me all the time, well, why would I choose you? And it's because I know exactly what to do for you. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of wrong stuff, send you down the path and do a bunch of irrelevant stuff or things that just don't make any sense, that you have to clean up later. So I don't have any problem with LegalZoom or any other online type of service if you can get a good product out of it. But the advice around what product you actually need, that's where I think you shouldn't be using LegalZoom, because they're not telling you. They're not going to interpret. Do you need an LLC taxed as an S corp? Do you need a PLLC? What is the right structure for you? And I can tell you that most of the do-it-yourselfers, the documents that they send me, they're fine. The incorporation that they got from their state, that's fine. The way that it was structured, it's completely messed up, and I have to undo it and redo it and fix it, and it's more work and it costs them more money. So if you're going to do it on LegalZoom, figure out what you're doing before you go do it. Don't just say, oh, a corporation, that's what I need, because there's 20 different choices to how to set up what you think you need.
Okay, if I really loved and respect you, I wouldn't ask you this next question, but I'm just gonna have to do it.
All right.
My gosh, my homies, they're a little, they get worked up easily, and one of the biggest threads on Dental Town is the vaccine passport. And now that all this pandemic's going away, like I've had both my vaccinations. Kyle, have you been vaccinated yet? You got one. It's really coming to an end, and everybody's starting to get out again. And my God, these dentists are seeing a vaccine passport, and they're just losing it.
Right.
They're saying that it's the First Amendment. Well, the dentist says it's covered in his First and Fourth Amendment. So I'm already thinking it's probably a dentist.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really if there's too many things covered in the First and the Fourth. But what's your thoughts? Is that a big government neo-Nazi thing, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I honestly, it's I don't know. I have everybody you have. Your clients are my clients, so I have the same thing. I have 5 conversations, and 3 of them will be this, and 2 of them will be that. I'll step back and answer it from my perspective. The way I see the world is it's getting better, not worse. I truly believe that things are better. Peter Diamandis wrote a book called Abundance. The future is brighter than you think. I would highly recommend it to everybody, because there are, and again, I've been around the world trying to solve problems, creating a 501c3 charity with Mike Abernathy and Greg Stanley on the board, and focusing. We did dental trips to Haiti. We fixed teeth. It was amazing. I mean, it was really all an amazing experience. I can tell you today there are more people with clean water. There are more people. There are fewer people living on $1 a day, meaning there's more people that are living on more than $1 a day. The world is getting better. So here's what happens in media. Our brains are trained to see the negative, because when we were walking around in the jungle, if we missed a blueberry, well, we just didn't eat. But if we missed the tiger crouching in the bushes, we were dead. So we are trained to be hypersensitive to negative information, because it was life and death, and positive information was way down the list. So the media has taken our hypersensitivity to negative information and turned it into ratings. And so all we ever see is negative information. I personally don't watch the Crisis News Network or Fox or any of it. I watch zero of that.
News Network. I love it.
I've
never heard that. The Crisis News Network. That's a new one for me. I'm stealing that. Everybody might continue going.
Does it help me? Is that fostering my overall flora in my brain to do what I need to do every day? Oh, hell no, it is not. And so I don't put it in my brain. I don't put it in my kids' brains. We just don't do it. We just literally don't do it. I don't watch it. And so when you ask that question, the vaccines and all that, to me, that's all part of the same thing. It's a conversation that is non-supportive of where I want to be. And I just keep falling back on, I think the world is getting better. I have faith in humanity. I think that as humans, we are going to make mistakes. We're going to screw it up, but we're going to fix it, and we're going to catch ourselves. And I just, I hope we don't make some kind of major mistake and wipe ourselves out. But short of that, I think we are going to pull it out. And I think in 50 years, it's going to be much better for every human that's alive on this planet than it is today. And there's still going to be disparities in income, and there's still going to be, struggles, but it's going to be better. And so that's just my fundamental thing. So I try not to get in the weeds on, this issue and that issue. If I did, I'd make an enemy of half my clients, and it's just doesn't serve me, doesn't serve them. So that's my answer, Howard.
Well, we're very similar. My boys tell me, looking back, that one of the best things I ever did for them was taking them to all these countries. I took them to everywhere I lectured. Yeah. And they used to, I've heard them telling their friends, like, they always say, because the same thing I always tell them, they say, what Dad always says, and I can vouch is true, that, America is completely a drunken sailor, crazy, lost its mind. But when the bar closes and the 208 countries are all having to leave the bar, everybody hands the United States the keys, because we're the least drunk crazy man at the bar.
That's right.
And you start going to these other countries, and we're drunk and crazy, but it's the least country. There's only one country that every time I go there, I think I'm, would want to stay there, but that's because my brother lives there. But that's Australia. Sydney is a rocking hot place, but
really?
But yeah, but you know, that'd be the only second choice I would do. But yeah, it is yeah, I mean, in Sydney you don't even need a car. My brother didn't have a car. I mean, you can
Yeah, that's
just
great.
yeah, you can leave a bar and you didn't need a car to go to work. Why do you need a car to get home?
Right.
It was just a great thing. So is there was there anything else that you thought we were going to talk about that we didn't that you think we should for my homies?
So what's going to happen, I'm guessing, is you're going to get a whole bunch of questions that we didn't talk about, which is going to be the details. And I heard about domestic trusts and why don't they work, or why can't I do this, or what about this? And we're going to get a bunch of in the weeds questions. I mean, I'm happy to come back on and answer all those once they come up, because what we didn't do is get into the weeds about it
Well, then
all of it.
you want to keep going? I'll shut the hell up and you keep going to the weeds of
No,
what you just
no,
said.
I don't.
Or what I wish you would do is like your brother,
A
make
continuing
make
education on asset
yeah.
protection.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
I'll
do that,
email.
because the weeds is another hour. I mean, I can literally spend another hour on just that, and that
Yeah.
would be
Now, do
fun.
you know Howard Goldstein?
I don't know if I do.
Okay. Okay. So your I'm Howard at dentaltown.com, and then the other Howard is Howard Goldstein. So he's Hojo at dentaltown.com, but
Okay.
he's in charge of all the online. See, I'm gonna email
Okay.
right
Yeah,
now.
just have him tell me what format, and I'll create it for you.
I'm sending you and Hogo an email right now. Hogo,
Okay.
can we get Douglas to make a online CE on what?
On asset protection.
Is that what you call it, on asset protection?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, asset protection and yeah, legal structures, understanding legal structures, everything what you said, but focused on the legal, so they understand, what makes sense for their practice all the way down to their personal assets, to their house. How should they hold it?
Yeah. And again, Doc, I mean, I could do 5,000 gosh darn podcasts on placing implants and all
Right.
that kind of fancy stuff, but you don't need help there. I mean, that's just a matter of going, and that's what you want to do. That's why you went to dental school. I'm trying to be a leader to make you focus on the stuff that you don't want to do, and that's the way it is. And by the way, everybody's got a million lawyer jokes, like what do you call a million lawyers drowned at the bottom of the ocean? A good start.
A good start.
But I'll tell you what. It's not free speech, but I've been sued a lot. But in Dental Town, I've never lost. I mean, someone will get on there and say, "Oh, I use this product and it sucked." And let me just tell you a couple little things that I recommend. And then a company, they try to bully me, and they're like, cease and desist, take down this post, tell us who it is. And I have an attorney. I use Ray Harris. I don't know if you know Ray Harris, and for 20 years, he's it's private property. Dental Town is private property. It's not public domain. It's not your house. When you say you have free speech, yeah, you have free speech to the government, but you come in my house and start saying free speech, I'm going to cap you with a 38 to use my metric, because I use metric when I'm buying.
Metaphorically speaking.
Well, no, 9mm ammo and a gram of weed. I mean, that's the only time I use metric. That's my imperial math joke. And but the bottom line is but look how bully doesn't work. They forget David and Goliath. Like, I had one guy, the late Bob Ibsen, he called me up from DenMat, and there was a guy on my website, Rob Kurthy, posting this stuff about DenMat products, and Bob had a jet. I mean, he was one of my jet friends, where when he wanted to meet you, he picked you up in his jet. Rick Kirshner does that. I only have a couple of jet friends. Glidewell has 3 jets. But anyway, he told me he was gonna sue him and sue me and all that. I said, Bob, whatever. I said, I don't care. I said, number one, if you beat me up, that'll be great for my image, because it's David and Goliath. I want the old rich millionaire with a jet to beat me up. I said, in fact, if I have to go to court, I'm already telling you I'm not going to go to court, because I want to be arrested and put in jail and have a photo behind bars where you put me. I said, that you'll make me bigger than life. I said, but what you ought to do with Rod Kurthy is you have a jet. you're in North LA and Santa Monica. He's in San Diego. Just call him up and send your jet to go get him and spend time with him. Spend time with him. I would have punched him. I said, okay, well, just do it in
Punch him
your
when you
jet.
spend time with him.
So what do we have here? Two massively passionate dentists.
Yeah.
But instead of suing them, he called them up. They got together. It was just a love fest. It was love at first sight. And
Right.
and you know, you get more with bees than honey. And the same thing with dentists. One of the reasons at today's dental, the reason I'm never sued is I see it on Dental Town. They'll get a letter from a patient that says, I'm going to sue you, this root canal, denture, whatever the hell. First call they make is to their malpractice attorney. Every single time that's happened to me, the first person is to call Mary. Mary, I just read your letter. My God, if I come over to your house, are you going to shoot me? What's going on?
Right.
Let her rant. And when she's ranting, never frickin' ever interrupt her. And when she's done ranting, you'll hear her take a deep breath and she'll feel better. And then I just say, Mary, what do you want me to do? I want my money back. Walmart gives your money back. They don't ask 40 questions. I mean, my God, if you made a denture and she hates it, wants her money back, she only lives a mile from you. What are you going to do? Have a pissed off lady a mile from your practice for 20 years? Who the hell needs that? I said, well, if you come down here right now and give me a big old hug, I'll give you your $1,000 back.
Yeah.
Oh, my. And then at the end of the year, I have other dentists that were in Awatuki that at the end of the year, all their over 90, 120, they turn all over to a collection agency.
Right.
And to get what, like 5 cents on the dollar?
Right.
So what I did is I got a stack of Christmas cards and said, you know, I'd sit there and say, Dear Frank, with the spirit of Christmas around the corner, I'm realizing what a great year I had. And I'm looking at your account and Doug, I don't know what happened if you tripped over your drum set or crashed your airplane tree, but you did not have a good year. And spirit of Christmas, I'm writing off your balance, and all I ask in return is for your continued love and support and the referral of your friends and loved ones to Today's Dental, because it's been an honor serving you as a patient. Oh my God.
Brilliant.
Crying, making me up. But they tell me the story.
Yeah.
I mean, when people get 90, 120, you don't know what the hell's going on in their life. I mean, some of the stories were just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
And so why, if you're going to turn $1 over to a collection agency and only get a nickel, and now you got a sworn enemy to life, it's like the United States. I've lectured in 50 countries, and those boys tell me every time your plane flies over and shoots and kills someone, you got a whole city that is going to, till the rest of their life, they're going to try to kill you. You're just making enemies you think you're policing. Mm-hmm. You're not policing. You're turning entire villages to, I'm going to get you back. And with the deal, I mean, I had a lady come in one time. She cried so hard. I never really understood what the hell she was telling me. She was just crying and hugging me. And I just off her balance. It was like $400. She hadn't made a payment in 6 months. But the bottom line is, I think you'll be more successful if you master the people skills than if you master the root canal skills. 99% of life is learning how to navigate around these 8 billion humans, and they're wild ass animals. And just like your cat, you know what's going to make your cat pissed off and hiss at you, and you know what's going to make your dog all happy. And, if you just start treating people like dogs and cats and don't make them hiss at you, don't piss them off, and if you get an A on people, the rest will be easy.
Right. That's I can't even tell you how smart that is. And I've never sent a single client to collection. I have never refused. If someone wasn't happy, I don't care what my retainer agreement says, I give them their money back. It just doesn't make any sense. Everything you're saying is the most sensible advice that you could possibly give to any young person. And statistically, I remember I used to quote this statistic. The number one reason doctors get sued is nothing but bedside manner. That's it. You don't sue somebody that you like, that would try to do the best. You sue people that you make a story about that gave you the ammunition to not like them, and sending them to collections or not picking up the phone when you see there's a problem. That's what gets you in trouble.
And that study, it also showed that they became aware of that because it was the same doctors getting sued over and over. I'm on a board of a dental malpractice company, so I get the claims every month, and And it's the same people over and over. And you talk to them, and it took them a lot of years to figure out, oh, you know why that happens? Because he's an asshole.
Yeah,
You know?
he just pisses people off, and they feel great about suing him because they piss him off. But it's not that he did anything more than any other dentist out there did.
My gosh, it was an honor to have you come on. What I love talking to you the most is it's the only time a lawyer talks to me, doesn't bill me for $400.
Yeah, you don't get billed. But you know what? It's the other thing that I do with my clients. I have never billed a client by the hour for anything. So the way I work is that I tell you what it costs, and you pay that, and then from that point forward, I just talk to you. There's no meter, because again, I don't want to be treated like that by my attorney. And believe it or not, of course, every attorney has attorneys. I've had to hire attorneys for all sorts of stuff over the years. And when I see those bills with the time and the hours, it just pisses me off. So why the hell would I set up my business like that? That's insane.
Yeah. All right, my man. Good to
All
see
right.
you.
Great to see you.